How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 3 of What If Deku had a half-destruction, half-creation Quirk. And before I start this what if off, I would like to ask all of you to comment what you think about this series so far down in the comment section below. And now, let's begin. 3 weeks have passed since the Heroes vs. Villains assignment, as we see Class 1A, along with their teacher Aizawa and their hero teacher, All Might, on a bus heading towards the USJ building. As they would then arrive, as they would all pile out of the bus, looking on to see a massive amount of stairs in front of them, as they would then see the Hero 13 standing on top of it. This was the hero that was in charge of the USJ building and knew how everything ran there. So as all of the students would start to climb up the stairs and would then meet up at the top, 13 would start to explain what they will be doing, as she would then open up the doors to reveal the massive USJ building, while also revealing a huge stairwell downward, as some of the students would start to question the building people or the architect who built the dome. However, this really wouldn't come into question a lot, as they would just marvel at how big this place was. And all of a sudden, a kid would step up saying, "Whoa, they even have fake villains here! This place is insane!" And all of a sudden, a purple portal would open up in front of the fountain down below all of these steps. And another purple portal would open up below all of the students, as they would then fall through the portal, being scattered out through the entire USJ. So there was no students left on top, as the only people left there were All Might, Aizawa, and 13, as they would then jump down and would start to fight all of these thugs that were down at the bottom of the stairs. All Might would realize that these weren't really trained villains at all. They were just common thugs that could easily be taken out. But he didn't lower his guard at all. And when all of the crowd was finished, there would reveal the final boss, the Nomu. As we cut to Izuku falling down onto a boat, as he would look around to see that there was 2 students with him, as Asui would be with him along with Momo Yaoyorozu, as they would look around to see that they were in a water zone with tons of villains surrounding them that looked to have water quirks. As they would then realize that this was no just laughing matter. They were really going to be attacked and could possibly even be killed by this villain attack. So Izuku would immediately get on guard and would circle the ship, making sure that no villains were on it, trying to sneak attack them, as he would then start to think of a plan. As he would be thinking, the 2 other students with him would also be thinking of what they could do, as Izuku would then get an idea, as he would start to power up and would then just create a ton of dirt and would then place it on top of this lake area, as it would then just appear in the lake, as the villains would be trapped in all of this dirt and then mud as the water was seeping into the dirt, as they would start to get stuck in it, as no one was able to be on top of it. Some people were being buried and suffocated, while others were on top of it, just stuck in it, and it was already hardening. So Izuku would then jump down, telling the others that it was safe and that they can just hop down and could continue on just to the next place to hopefully help other students. As Izuku would see the battle going on between All Might and the villains, as he would then walk over to the other just area that was right next to it, which happened to be the earthquake area. As he would arrive there, he would see Uraraka, Ida, and Bakugo standing there fighting a bunch of villains around them, as Izuku would jump in, making a katana, and would start to use that against the villains. While the others weren't really hurting any of the villains, Izuku had learned from a young age, if he's going to be a hero, there's going to be villains that have killer intent and that are wanting to kill you. They're not just going to let you pass because you're a kid. No, they are merciless killing machines that are just going down the path of villainy. At least that's what he was taught. Izuku knew that some villains had mercy and didn't want to kill any kids, but they were just went down that path because they had no other choice. However, people who these villains decided and chose to attack the school. So he had no mercy for them, like they had no mercy for his classmates. So Izuku, going in with killing intent, would start to use it against all of them, as his classmates would be shocked. Izuku wasn't giving them any mercy, and so they were just completely confused on how this was happening. They had never seen someone be killed before, and much less from someone they knew, someone who was their friend. As Izuku would do this, easily destroying all of the villains in his path, as Bakugo would then just run past him, hoping to get some glory for saving other classmates by destroying or just defeating a bunch of other villains, as he had gotten no glory from Izuku coming in and saving the day. Bakugo hated this. It was always Izuku who would come in and defeat him. That was something he just despised about Izuku. He was always the hero. He never was looked upon in a bad light. So Izuku would continue on going around gathering a bigger group of his classmates, defeating any of the villains that were in his path, as they would also follow him, just maintaining a circle of just safety so that no villains could easily just get into that circle and try to kill some of the classmates. However, Bakugo wouldn't join this group, deciding to leave. He didn't want to be in a group where Izuku was the leader after all, and he much wanted to just make his own group. After getting Kaminari and Kirishima to follow him, that was the small group of 3 that he had decided to do. As Izuku would continue on just going through this, easily defeating these villains. Much like All Might had said prior to this, these were just thugs. They weren't well-trained people. And Izuku was a well-trained person. He has been training ever since he had gotten his quirk. So he was easily able to do this, all while Garfield was just sleeping on his shoulder. As some of the villains would see this and just be confused how a cat would be sleeping while its owner is easily killing others with blood splashing all over the place. So Izuku would continue doing this, as he would then look on to see Aizawa in 13 knocked out against just a pile of bricks, and 13 under this pile of bricks while Aizawa was on top of it, as he would then look towards All Might to see him struggling against this giant bird creature, as Izuku would tell all of the classmates to stay back and to find cover, as he would stay out there watching them, but from a safe distance. As All Might would start to struggle, as his bones and arms would start to shake, not able to control the power of the Nomu, as the Nomu would then wrap its hands around All Might's fists and would then throw him into the fountain, completely destroying it. As All Might would then get up, barely able to stand, running after the Nomu, punching it across the face, but this didn't faze the Nomu at all, just punching him back into the gut, sending him flying through the dome's roof, as All Might would then come splashing or just hitting the ground, as his body would flail up in the air like a rag doll. He was completely just to the mercy of this Nomu, as the Nomu was about to go in for the final blow on All Might. Izuku would appear, slicing off the Nomu's arm, as it would then quickly regenerate, as Izuku's eyes would widen, completely confused. You can't kill the Nomu by just using a sword. He has a regeneration quirk. That's not gonna happen, Shigaraki would say, as Izuku would look on in shock before getting his guts smashed in by a Nomu's fist right to his stomach, sending him flying back into the ruins of the fountain, as All Might would stand up as if saying that Izuku should stay back. This isn't his fight. If he can't defeat him, then how could Izuku? As All Might would then have the finishing blow dealt on him, as the Nomu would plunge his hand right into All Might's stomach, his weak spot, as All Might would then turn back into Skeleton Might, as he would then fall back and would start bleeding out, before having his face smashed in by the Nomu's foot, as Izuku, along with all of his classmates, would look on in shock. As Izuku would then just completely lose all of emotions. Izuku was now the only one left who could save his classmates. He knew if All Might couldn't beat the Nomu, then Bakugo, Todoroki, or him possibly couldn't either. But he knew all of his training was meant to save people, to become a hero. And this is where it mattered, as Izuku would completely just get serious after seeing one of his teachers die. The number one hero died to this Nomu. And so he would get serious and would activate or awaken his destroying quirk, while also using his creation quirk, which it would then combine into his favorite weapon, a katana. He would create the katana before lining it with a destructive just thing around it, a destruction aura. As Izuku would then touch a brick on the side, as it would then disintegrate into nothing, making sure his katana would work. As Izuku would then lift his blade before sprinting right at the Nomu and would cut upward, slicing off the Nomu's left arm. As Shigaraki would start laughing again. "Didn't I tell you, you fool? Simple cuts won't work against this Nomu. It has a regeneration quirk. Or are you just this stupid to not hear me?" As Izuku would then smile before saying, "No, you're the fool here. You couldn't realize what I did to this blade that easily makes it able to destroy anything with a regeneration quirk." As the Nomu would look on along with Shigaraki and Izuku's classmates at the Nomu's arm. Its arm falling to the ground would then disintegrate into a dust, as this would, or it would disintegrate into nothing, as the Nomu would try to regenerate its arm, but nothing would happen, as Izuku would then do the same to the other arm, making the Nomu almost useless besides kicks. As Izuku would then go up to the Nomu, slicing his blade right through the stomach before turning the blade and slicing it outwards, leaving the Nomu barely holding on to its legs. Izuku would then go in and finish the cut, as the Nomu's torso would then fall off completely from the legs, as the legs would then disintegrate. As Izuku would decide to put this mindless creature out of its misery before slamming his blade into the eye of the Nomu, as it would just lose everything, as the brain would then disintegrate, leaving a shell that would then start to disintegrate into nothingness. As Izuku would look on towards Shigaraki and would point the blade towards him. "Do you want to become like this Nomu here? If not, I suggest you leave." As Shigaraki would instantly yell for Kirogiri to create a portal and would then hop through it. "This makes no sense," Shigaraki would say, now sitting at a bar stool. "How could some brat kill the Nomu, but it killed All Might? This makes no sense at all. I'll have to tell Master about this," Shigaraki would say, as we then cut back to the USJ to see Izuku standing right by his classmates, telling them if they're all right and if they feel fine after seeing what had just happened, as some of them would nod, but some would look on in shock. The number one hero's body was laying dead right there, as Izuku had just defeated the thing that defeated the number one hero. They now knew they had a protector of the class, a security guard for this class. They knew that now, but now they have no hero teacher. All Might was dead. Where were they going from here, they would think, as Izuku would then sit there and would then just search All Might's body and would then find a phone, as he would use the emergency dial to call the emergency service number, as the emergency services would then arrive. No student was able to get out, so Nezu and along with all of the police didn't know any of this was happening. So when they would arrive, they would be shocked to see All Might's dead body laying in front of it, as the students would be sitting along the steps, just completely in shock, as Izuku would be standing there, just looking at All Might's dead body, as the police would quickly come in and would start the cleanup process, cleaning up any signs of a murder or a kill had just happened, taking All Might's body and putting it into a black body bag before putting it back into an ambulance, as Izuku would then walk back to his classmates and say, it's been quite the hectic day, don't y'all think? Before walking back over and sitting it into the bus that was there to take them back to the UA school building. I saw what in 13 would be rushed to the hospital, as Nezu would then walk out of a police car and would ask all of the students to hop onto a bus, as they all would, and would then be transported back to class 1A or the UA school building. However, they wouldn't stop there, stopping at a huge building that looked like a residential building or a hotel, as Nezu would start to try to take their minds off of what had just happened and would tell them to just walk in and explore for the rest of the school day. This is where they'll be moving in exactly. Well, this is where they will be living afterwards, as they had done a bit of renovations. I just now realizing I think I did the dorms. I'm not quite sure, but let's just say they're moving in now. I really can't remember after only 2 days, which is kind of sad. So they would move into the dorms, as Nezu would just say they did some minor improvements on the building and would make them have bigger rooms, hopefully so that they could just know that this was just some incident and everything was going to be fine. And that's where I'm going to leave this What If off, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy part 3 of What If Deku had a half creation, or half destruction, half creation quirk. I'm sorry if I already did the dorms. I'm kind of forgetful, kind of not. It's really just sometimes I forget some things, sometimes I don't. I almost forgot about Garfield, but he was just sleeping on Izuku's shoulder. And so I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.